What is the dumbest idea that unexpectedly worked for you? Once, I pretended to be sick when I was in middle school. I told my mom that I had a sore throat and was starting to catch a cold. She took me to the doctor, and it turned out that I actually had a bacterial infection in my throat. Or maybe the doctor was just real bro, making a homemade sink plunger out of a liquid soap bottle. And how did it turn out? I'm impressed. Yeah, the bottleneck fit almost perfectly into the drain. I didn't want to use the toilet plunger for the sink, so I made it like this. I set the Wi-Fi password at the church to Jesus. It worked. Heh, Jesus really became the answer for you. I'm a poor student living in Germany. By law, students are required to have health insurance. If you don't have health insurance, the university will exclude you. The lowest rate I could get was 189 euros, $208 per month. I don't even spend that much on food. I simply couldn't afford such a high price. I wrote countless letters to my insurance company explaining that I couldn't pay 189 euros, but they still refused to lower my rate, citing that they simply follow the law. They even notified my university that I hadn't paid my health insurance. Then the university threatened to expel me. In desperation, I wrote a letter to the German Ministry of Health. I explained my situation and asked them to speak to the insurance company. A week later, I received a letter from my insurance company stating that they had lowered my rate to just 89 euros per month, and that the reduction applied to the entire previous month. Soon my tariff will increase again, but this time I will be able to manage. Modified. I received my high school diploma by attending evening seminars when I was around 25. After obtaining the diploma, I worked for several years. Then, when I turned 30, I enrolled in university, so I am not eligible for student rates, insurance, or government discounts. Most students in Germany pay significantly lower insurance prices. I made a bet with my husband that I could fix the dent on the car with a plunger, and it worked. In college. I attended classes where I was required to purchase online textbooks and workbooks that were registered under my name, essentially guaranteeing that each student would have to buy a new online copy every semester instead of purchasing used textbooks. I had a friend who took this course a semester before me, and we came up with the idea to contact customer support and tell them that I recently got married, so my last name is changed. I legally changed my name to my friend's name and asked customer support to update it in their system. The scheme worked perfectly, and the customer support representative even congratulated me on my marriage. I consider it criminal to force students to buy new textbooks instead of used ones, especially if they are authored by the same professor. I forgot to bring my resume to the interview, but I had a lined note card in my bag. I cut it in half and beautifully wrote my name, contact information, and signed it as a creative problem-solving specialist. I handed my business card to the interviewer. I was accepted. In college, we once hung out at a friend's house, which was on the other side of the city, and it was very late, and the buses were no longer running. Therefore, the only way to get back home was by taxi. This was before Uber. And I really wanted to eat, but I only had $10 in my pocket. And I had to choose between getting some fast food and walking home for an hour, or calling a taxi and being hungry. And then, eureka! I went into a Chinese cafe, asked them to deliver food to my home address, and at the same time, take me home. At first, they were reluctant, but I explained that it wouldn't cost them any additional expenses to drop me off. They agreed. And in the end, I had Chinese food, plus a free ride home. Edited. As many of you have guessed, this happened a long time ago, about 17 years ago. The courier had other orders, so he didn't drive just for me. And yes, I tipped the guy, but first, I had to go back home to get some quarters. I knew a guy who used to order curry delivery to his home every Saturday night while sitting in a pub. Then he would cross the road to the curry house, and they would deliver the order, including him, to his home. This went on for 3 or 4 months. Then, one Saturday, we were sitting in the pub having a pint of beer. As the owner of the curry house came in, he took an order from this guy and immediately picked it up from the pub, as he told us, to make it easier for everyone. During work, I had a flat tire on my forklift Bobcat. I had a spare tire, but I didn't have a jack. I parked the forklift behind a dump truck, then tried to lift the rear of the truck with the forklift itself. But obviously the forklift couldn't lift such a damn heavy truck. Instead, Bobcat itself was lifted. Changed the tire, then went back to work. Sounds like a good way to get crushed by a forklift. In high school, I once went into a teacher's office after class to ask a couple of questions about homework. When I walked in, I noticed that he was grading some of our tests. By the way, all his tests consisted of multiple choice questions, true or false, or something similar, and they were in circles, meaning you had to fill in the circle with the correct answer. I noticed that instead of using an answer sheet to check the tests, the teacher simply placed a stencil on the paper with cut-out circles in the right places. The stencil was not transparent, so all it was showing was whether or not the circles were painted under the properly cut holes. The next time on a test, I got stuck on one of the questions, true and false, and I remembered the teacher's test-checking method. I simply colored both circles. Even if it wouldn't work, I could easily claim it was a random mark. But the teacher didn't notice my trick, which I, by the way, used until the end of the year to slightly boost my score on all his tests. Going back to the days of flip phones, I dropped my phone on the floor and the screen stopped working. I could make and receive calls, but the screen was blank. I endured it for several weeks because I couldn't afford to buy a new phone. But one day I thought, well, if dropping the phone turned off the screen, maybe if I drop it again, the screen will turn on. I dropped my phone on the floor, picked it up again, and the screen started working. On the 4th of July, Independence Day, I was in Brooklyn near my home. It was damn hard to catch a taxi when suddenly an ice cream truck pulled up. My home was right near the ice cream gathering point. I knew that any truck in that area parked there. So in broken Spanish, I asked them to take me and ended up with a free ride home, plus an ice cream cone. Easy win. Strange ride in general. Breaking into my own house through the kitchen window using a wire and a wooden table. I want to hear how the fuck did you do that? Well, we returned home with my mom and younger brother and realized that we forgot the keys at my grandmother's house. And goddamn, she lives on the other side of town. Mom called Dad to bring the keys. He was at work, and it took him an hour to come. So we had to wait outside all that time. I switched to plan B and continued to search for other ways to enter the house. It turned out that one of the small windows at the back of the house was open, but it had a safety cotter pin, which holding it from opening completely, and the only way to open the window fully was to unscrew that fuse. I took a nearby wooden clothespin, which was lying nearby, broke it, pulled out the wire that connected it, it was the perfect size, and unscrewed the cotter pin on the window. Then I pulled a chair up to the window and climbed inside. That's how I successfully broke into my house at the age of 13. Not the dumbest school idea in this thread, but once I got an extra day to finish my video project at school, came to class with a video which lasted only a second and with just a black screen. I voluntarily rushed to the board first, but then I got confused and worried when the file didn't open. The teacher pitied me and said I should bring the video next day. I finished it in the evening and still got my score as if I completed the project on time. Once I came to class without writing an essay. I didn't know about this homework until I arrived at the lecture. Luckily, the teacher didn't collect the essays until the end of the class, and I just quickly wrote the whole thing in a notebook during the lecture. When people were handing in their essays, I approached and told the teacher that I forgot to print my essay, but I have it in my email. I waved my handwritten essay to prove that I completed it. He allowed me to print the essay. In the end, within 5 minutes, I quickly printed my work, rushed back, submitted it, and got a C or B. But it was definitely better than nothing. A real estate manager told me that I needed to professionally clean the carpets. It wasn't in the contract. Otherwise, I would lose the $800 deposit. I looked online and realized that I could become an accredited carpet cleaner since there were no official licensing boards in my state. So, I did what any sensible person would do. I paid $85, completed an online course, and received a certificate. I registered a trade name and so on, all free. I handed a copy of my accreditation and the service bill to the real estate manager. And as a result, I became a professional carpet cleaner, opened my own cleaning business, and have been doing it for 6 months now. Not my idea, but my mom's. I dropped one earring on the floor and couldn't find it for a long time. My mom came over, took my other earring and threw it on the floor. And it turned out that it fell right next to the one I had lost. Well, that's not a dumb idea, your mom is just a witch. In college, my friend and I had a class on investment management, and in one of the projects, we were given a month to invest fake dollars in the stock market and see whose team would get a better return in a month. It was in the spring, so we invested all our fake money in Heinz, thinking that with the warmer weather, there would be a surge in ketchup and mustard sales. The next day, Berkshire Hathaway acquired the entire Heinz company, and the professor accused us of insider trading. In fact, we had no idea what we were doing. Modified, to clarify, we didn't have any problems due to insider trading, but the professor approached us before the next class and said, "What was that?" We explained everything. She found it amusing, but said that if it were real money, we would definitely be investigated. When I was a rookie in the Army, we were undergoing training with another unit, and we were assigned to defend the combat zone in urban conditions from advancing forces. We were allowed a couple of hours to prepare. One guy suggested stretching a tripwire trap to at least slow them down. All the doors of the house were painted bright blue, and all we had was my black parachute cord, which could easily be noticed against the blue doors. Making it into a tripwire trap, we thought they would surely notice it. I was wrong. Instead of carefully checking the door as intended, their unit simply decided to barge in. I could barely return fire because I was laughing so hard. I also extended a small piece of cord at the entrance to the room I was defending. It was at a level just below the knee. I turned around when I heard the soldiers falling on top of each other. I stood there, watching almost the entire squad crawling over each other trying to stand up. I switched to burst firing mode, emptied the entire magazine, and started laughing even harder, so much that I couldn't deal with the last one. After being shot at from the corridor, I just leaned against the wall, looked at the whole scene with my squad, and burst into laughter again. Then their platoon commander rushed in and tripped over the same cord. That's when I simply stopped, put the gun on safe, leaned against the wall, and nearly pissed myself laughing. Thank you so much for watching. In the comments below the video, you can write about the dumbest idea that came to your mind and unexpectedly worked. And don't forget to watch our other episodes. That's it. Bye-bye.